8 months pregnant, I brought my kids home hoping for a warm Christmas. One look inside, and I knew we were not welcome. I realized we didn't belong as soon as the door opened. With wine glasses already poured, each seat identified precisely, and all the other grandchildren sat and smiling like a stock photo family. The table was arranged like a magazine spread. My brother was also present, the golden boy, enjoying the warmth of his most recent promotion. When he saw me enter with the children, he even had the gall to chuckle. "Oh," Dad murmured, his face pressed hard and his arms folded. "We didn't anticipate your arrival." "Yeah, obviously," Bryce said, laughing aloud, arrogantly and theatrically. "Why is she in this place?" He smiled as if I were the office intern who happened to walk into a board meeting by mistake. I waited for Mom to say something, anything at all, but she kept moving napkins around as if the symmetry of the forks were more significant than her real daughter, who was standing at the door with two bewildered children. As if that resolved the matter, Dad murmured, "There aren't any seats left. No happy Christmas. No embracing the children. Nothing at all. Well, you can come in, but the kids will have to sit somewhere else," he said, sounding benevolent. At the table already were the other grandchildren. Of course, Bryce's children. The grandchildren were the important ones. I tasted blood because I bit my tongue so hard. I didn't speak louder. I refrained from crying. Calm as ever, I simply smiled at Bryce. "I suppose I'm useless now that Bryce has a fancy title, huh?" Bryce gave an eye roll. "Helpful. Nobody requested your assistance. That's perfect." I took my phone out of my coat pocket. "Nice to know," I answered with ease. "That implies that I will no longer be making mortgage payments." There was silence, as if I had turned off the lights on the Christmas tree. Dad's expression went cold. In fact, Mom stopped fiddling with her forks. Suddenly less arrogant, Bryce sat up straighter. "You're kidding," he stated bluntly. I gave a headshake. "Number you seem to be well without me now. You are therefore on your own." I looked at my children. "Come on. We're heading home." "Wait," Mom said at last, her voice trembling. "Are you really going to leave?" I remarked. "You just said we weren't welcome." As I started to go toward the door, "I'm paying attention." My younger sister Marley was standing in the embalmment corner just before I left. She remained silent. She simply stood there with her hands in her hoodie pockets, her eyes downcast and her face etched with humiliation. I didn't let her stop me. Nobody did. It was a calm drive home, the kind of silence that, even when the radio is on, crackles. Grasping the present bag we were never able to offer, my youngest gazed out the window. Without a word, my oldest leaned his head against the seat. Even though he didn't yet have the words, I could see he understood. What prevented Grandpa from wanting us there? My child requested in a tiny voice. My hands remained solid on the steering wheel. I said, "Because some people lose the ability to be kind. However, we don't. We recall." "Belly first," Caleb greeted us at the entrance. "How was it then?" I arched an eyebrow. "We arrived without an invitation." His jaw fell. "You're not serious?" I gave a head shake. I then severed the cord. "No more mortgage payments. Allow Bryce to solve it." Caleb blinked. "You actually did that?" I gave a nod, directly before the Christmas ham. After giving me a long look, he just muttered, "Damn," and gave me a shoulder rub. I must admit that I felt lighter. No more guilt trips from Mom about how difficult things have been, and no more sporadic calls from Dad requesting a small transfer. My family only recognized me when they were broke, so I could finally sleep at night without worrying about whether they were draining my bank account. A week went by, then my phone chimed one night just after midnight. Once, twice, then 4 more times. I never even checked. I recognized the person already. Mom. I allowed it to ring. Caleb groaned as he rolled over next to me. She is tenacious. One more buzz. It was a message this time, but not from her. From Marley. "Pick up. It's serious." My stomach nodded. I made a call. Marley responded right away, breathing rapidly. "It's Dad. He has aches in his chest. Mom is going crazy." In bed, I sat up. "Did she make a 911 call?" "No." "She gave me a call. Then you..." "She did, of course." Marley paused. "She started by trying Bryce. He didn't respond." "He hasn't given her a call since Christmas," she said. ever since his dismissal. I blinked. Hold on, what? Marley let out a breath. Indeed, he was fired. He was set up by a guy he believed he was dating, some sort of fraud. He could be sued. Back against the headboard, I sank. Karma, eh? This year it was quick and on time. She would like you to attend, Marley said quietly. I shut my eyes. To be clear, I wasn't cold-hearted. However, it was difficult to ignore the picture of me standing in that hallway with my children gripping my coat and hearing that there was no space for us. I sighed nonetheless. I'll be there. I didn't let Caleb stop me. Don't let them pull you back in, he said as he kissed my forehead. I arrived without a knock. With one hand on his chest and perspiration streaming down his cheeks, Dad was slumped in a recliner. It appeared as though Mom had been crying for hours. Panic was thick in the air. Thank God, she said, hurrying toward me. Your dad is having trouble breathing. Have you made an ambulance call? She blinked. I assumed you... I took my phone out. Really, Mom? The paramedics arrived quickly, hooked him up. Vitals were checked. One said, it's not a heart attack. However, his blood pressure is really high, caused by stress. I gave a snort. Startling, they removed him. Mom looked at me as if I were a lifeline while she stood there wringing her hands. She muttered, we need help. I gave her a direct look. No. She recoiled as if I had given her a slap. However, I didn't feel bad for once. I was liberated. Have you ever watched someone drop a dish, watch it break, and then merely take a step back and blame gravity instead of picking it up? My family was like that. For 2 days following the hospital event, everything was oddly silent. No phone calls. Don't text. Perhaps, I thought, they had accepted it, that I had finished, that what I said was true. Naturally, I was mistaken. Marley's appearance at my door was the first step. Dark circles, a pulled-up sweatshirt, and a habit of gnawing on. The inside of her cheek, as if it were owed money, made her appear as though she hadn't slept in days. She was carrying a rumpled envelope in one hand and stuffed the other deep in her coat pocket. I pulled the door open. Is everything all right? Explain okay? She murmured as she entered. The envelope fell to the kitchen table. Mom said that. I kept my hands off of it. She said you would block her number, so she asked me to deliver it personally. Yes, I did. Marley let out a sigh. She is in a difficult situation. Dad is still being monitored at the hospital. They are unable to stabilize his blood pressure. When you try to support yourself with your children, and one of them eventually says no, that's what happens. Marley took a quick look at the infant. Crib that Caleb and I had partially put together earlier. They assumed you would give in? Well, I said, they made a bad gamble. Then she let the hammer fall. Bryce spent the money from the mortgage. I went cold. What? The final payment. The money. You sent them? The mortgage was never paid. Bryce received it from them. My molars screamed as my jaw clamped so tightly. Everything? Almost $5,000, she said with a nod. Mom told me that since he recently received a promotion, they offered him the money to help him advance. He went on a weekend trip with that guy, bought some furniture, and then everything fell apart. My stomach dropped. And now, the promotion has now ended. The man abandoned him. He is also being investigated. The business believes he participated in a conspiracy to transfer funds using fictitious vendor invoices. However, it turns out that he was only the fall guy. He was, of course. I laughed resentfully. To be clear, they stole money from their daughter, who has 2 children and a baby on the way, and gave it to their son, who lost his job and could face legal action. I'm supposed to tidy it up now? Marley gave a silent, nod. I whispered, they never really learn. I walked over to her. And you? What are you standing at? I told them I agreed with you, she said, after hesitating. I was astonished by that. And my dad told me to leave. Claimed that I didn't belong in their home if I wasn't going to provide for them like a real daughter. I gazed at her. Wait, you were expelled? Marley gave a shrug. I gathered my belongings and departed. At the moment, I am in a motel. I said the hell you are right away. Go gather your belongings. You intend to remain here. Marley appeared in disbelief. Are you serious? You already have too much on your plate. I put a hand on her shoulder and murmured, "Marley, you're not them. I also don't abandon folks." She let out a breath, her eyes slightly watering. "I'm grateful." The phone turned into a battlefield over the course of the following few days. Missed phone calls, voicemails filled with anger and guilt. "You're cruel. You lack gratitude. This family is being ruined by you." I didn't respond. Not once. Mom genuinely said, "Bryce needs you." At the end of one voicemail, "He is your brother." Yes, the same brother that made fun of me for missing out on Christmas dinner. The same person who said I wasn't required. Marley and I rapidly settled into a rhythm. She helped me paint the nursery, took the guest room, and carried food home without asking. Caleb was remarkably laid back about it. He even joked that had become a strange sitcom trio. However, the tranquility was short-lived. I heard a car pull into the driveway on Saturday afternoon while Caleb and I were assembling the crib. I took a quick look through the blinds. Mom. Untidy hair, swollen eyes, shoulders slumped like a paperwoman. "Astonishing," I whispered. Rising from the Allen wrench, Caleb peered up. "Do I need to hide?" I chuckled to myself. Alluring, like it owed her money, she banged on the door. I opened it, but I remained motionless, to allow her entry. "Ah," she said, in a raw whisper. "Please." I folded my arms. "What are you looking for?" "Your dad. He remains unwell. Additionally, we risk losing the house if we fail to make the next payment." I remained silent. She dabbed at her face. "We had faith in Bryce. We believed he would look after us. We were mistaken." I arched an eyebrow. "You think?" She raised her head, remorse shining in her eyes. "We were not perfect. I am aware of that. You are our daughter, though. We require assistance." I didn't do it. You realize what's amusing? After a time, I said, "You didn't spend the money I provided you for the house. As though it were his birthright, you gave it to Bryce. I'm the fallback option now that he has stopped talking." Once more. She broke down in tears. "Please, I'm at a loss for what to do." I grinned, gently yet firmly. "Work it out." She blinked. "That's not what you mean." "Yes." I began to shut the door. She lost her temper at that point. "You owe us." I went cold. "Pardon me?" "We brought you up, fed you, paid for your university education. Are you simply going to leave us when we need you now?" I gave a chilly laugh. "A daughter was not raised by you. A safety net was raised by you. A backup plan. And you know what? I now have my own family. My children. Come first." Anger curled her mouth. "You resemble your father exactly." "Perhaps. However, I'm not foolish enough to ruin my life for those who just come when they're in need of money." In her face, I closed the door. She let out a muffled, enraged cry outside, and then there was a loud bang. I sprinted over to the window. She had kicked my car's side, then she drove away. Caleb gave me the Oscar-winning look. "Are you all right?" he inquired. I gave a nod. Better than good. I assumed it would end with the car kick and the door slam. Mom's outburst felt like the last scene of a play that had already been canceled without her realizing it. I thought perhaps, at last, they would retreat. However, my family doesn't die gracefully. Everyone inside the blast radius is gaslighted as they go down crying and kicking. My phone rang 3 days after the driveway incident. This time, Marley's name, not Mom's, was displayed on the screen, I replied. With a flat voice as if she already regretted being the messenger, she stated, "They're trying to make a deal." I let out a sigh and sank into the chair in the living room. They certainly are. Now what? Instead of just giving them the money, they want to know if you would consider lending it to them? I burst out laughing. Marley went on, obviously reading from a script in his head. "Or perhaps you could temporarily place the mortgage in your name, and they'll make monthly payments to you." Did they say that really? Verbatim. I turned to see Caleb folding little onesies in the nursery as if it were a holy rite. I squinted. I'm going to assume that Bryce hasn't replied to them yet. Number complete silence on the radio. His accounts are locked, they are looking into him. And when the heat got to him, his boyfriend abandoned him. I cocked my head. This year, karma is ahead of schedule. Marley remained silent for a while. They're afraid, really afraid. They are unlike anything I have ever seen. Well, I stated plainly, they need to experience what it's like to be completely helpless. A pause occurred. Just to be sure, Marley said quietly, is there anything they could say to get your assistance? No. She let out a breath, as if she had been clinging to a glimmer of hope for resolution. All right, excellent. Since I informed them that I concur with you. I blinked. You told them? Hold on. Yes, she replied. I had had enough of acting. They treated you unfairly, I told them. That you were exploited. Perhaps none of this would have occurred if they had made even half the effort to help you that they did for Bryce. I remained silent for a moment. Something strange and unexpected clenched in my throat. And Dad lost it, she stated bluntly. Told me to pack my things and leave if I wasn't loyal to this family. I took a seat in front. What did you do too? I went out. I grinned simultaneously, feeling pleased and protective. Well done, girl. I was hoping they'd realize they pushed too far, Marley went on. That they would express regret. Mom attempted to call you again instead, accusing you of betraying them. I gave a sour laugh. They behave as though allegiance is worth money. As if, simply because they gave birth to us, we owe them unquestioning loyalty. They're falling apart. Everything, the home, the money, even the way they look. At church, everyone is aware of Bryce. They feel ashamed. Lets them feel ashamed. And then there was a knock. Over the phone, Marley heard it. Was that? Glancing through the slats, I made my way to the entrance. Bryce? Oh, you must be joking with me? Would you like me to remain on the line? Marley made the offer. I grinned. No, this is the one I've been anticipating. I didn't bother to cover my face as I cautiously opened the door. Bryce had a terrible appearance. Not shaven, cheeks that are hollow. Wearing a pricey jacket that no longer suited his shoulders properly. He muttered in a strained tone. Can we have a conversation? I simply moved out of the way so he could enter without responding. He did not sit. Stood there in the center of my living room, his eyes flitting about as if he couldn't stand staring at me for too long. I made a mistake, he began. I'm not joking. He flinched. They said that I was the reason you stopped helping. No, Bryce. Because of them, I ceased to assist. You were simply the last straw. He swallowed hard and nodded. I had no idea they had given me your money. They simply stated that they had put it aside. If I knew, I wouldn't have accepted it. I extended a hand. Don't tell lies. You usually take it. Therefore, you would have taken it anyhow. That is how we differ from one another. You anticipate receiving a bailout. I anticipated surviving on my own. He winced. I am aware of my error. I lost everything. My work, my standing. I was taken advantage of by the guy I was seeing, played me like a complete idiot. I shrugged and replied, I could have warned you, but at Christmas, I was too busy getting treated like trash. He shut his eyes. I'm worthy of that. You do damn it right. Silence fell. I came to ask for help, he stated after giving me a serious look. I squinted. You're really brave. I'm not requesting money, he added hastily. I simply need somewhere to stay. Only for a short time, perhaps a week. I've been lounging on the couch, and I'm at a loss for things to do. I blinked slowly. After everything, do you really think I'm going to take you in? There is nowhere else for me to go. I folded my arms. You possess them. There are those who gave you thousands without asking. The people who consistently picked you over me. They expelled me. My mouth fell open. Hold on. What? He gave a resentful nod. I told them I couldn't help with anything financially after I lost my job. After the whole incident with the company, and Dad simply lost it. I was dead weight, they said. Said that he ought to have disconnected me years ago. Then instructed me to get my belongings. I gazed at him. So, let me clarify something. The moment you received your promotion, they tossed me out, both financially and emotionally. They put all of their money on you, and they kicked you out when you failed. His jaw tensed as he nodded. They took advantage of me. Similar to how they took advantage of you. I gave him a serious look. At last, you understand, I muttered. Dejected, he stood there. He said, I'm not staying forever. All I need is somewhere to breathe. I looked back at my brother after glancing down the hallway where Marley was playing Uno with my children. All right, I replied. The couch is yours. No grievances. Have no expectations. I'll kick you out personally since you act entitled. He gave a quick nod. I won't. I promise. That evening, Bryce sat quietly on the couch as Marley cooked popcorn in the kitchen, and Caleb adjusted the baby monitor. He was curled up with a blanket and had a look of humility on his face that I had never seen before, and I realized for the first time that I was no longer angry. I had just finished. I'm done being the backup. All the others have been held together. I'm done acting like self-respect was more important than blood. It was also pleasant. 3 months. That is the amount of time that has passed since I last spoke with my folks. No voicemails that make you feel guilty, not at 11 p.m. crises, not a drive-by drama. Nothing but quiet. And the beauty of that silence is beyond description. It's quiet. In my house now, Marley's still here, but only temporarily. She's been saving up for her own apartment and already has a spot in mind. Bryce, he stayed for almost 2 weeks. The first few days were awkward, like 2 ex-rivals imprisoned in the same sitcom. But slowly, something altered. Without being asked, he began to assist. Got groceries, cleaned the dishes, even assisted Caleb in completing the crib. Baby clothes were folded like origami by the man who used to laugh in my face. That is what humility does to a person. One peaceful morning, he promised to call and left a thank you note. Strangely enough, he kept it. Get a text about once a week. Occasionally, it's just a meme, a check-in at other times. Although we are not close, we are now honest. That's a beginning. And me, I can breathe more easily. The baby will be born any day. Being a big sibling is something my oldest talks about as if it were a promotion. Caleb has never been more thrilled and worn out. I've made our house a haven for recuperating siblings, he quips. Perhaps I have. And perhaps that's all right. Something I didn't anticipate? They are not missed. Yes, I do miss the thought of them. The idealized portrayal of parents who love unconditionally, don't keep score, and wouldn't dump their daughter as soon as a more attractive model appeared. However, the authentic versions, the ones who repeatedly selected Bryce, who viewed my assistance as a duty instead than a favor. No, I don't even miss them. One Saturday afternoon was the lone true surprise. When an unknown automobile drew up to the curb, Marley and I were enjoying some lemonade on the porch while assessing the neighborhood's gardening. A female emerged. Older, slim, anxious energy. Marley froze next to me and said, "Mom, really?" I whispered. I believed we were finished. Slowly, as if expecting the ground to turn away, she ascended the trail. Without a grin or a greeting, I stood with my arms crossed. "Ah," she uttered, dry and strained voice. "I must speak with you. I don't believe you do. If it weren't important, I wouldn't be here. When I needed you, you were never there." She took a swallow. "Your dad is still ill. According to the physicians, stress is to blame. He is unable to stabilize his blood pressure. Our mortgage payments have been past due. And Bryce?" Her voice trailed off. "He's not returning." I gazed at her. In a whisper, she said, "We gave him everything, every penny. We have saved. Our whole trust. We thought he would look after us. You had faith in him," I clarified. "Not within me." She gave me a frantic look. "We did something wrong." "No, Mother. Forgetting to send a birthday card is an error. There was a pattern to everything you did." Her eyes filled with tears. "The house is going to be lost." I gave a shrug. "It, sounds familiar?" Her mouth quivered. "Are you truly going to let us disintegrate?" "You did already," I responded quietly. "It wasn't until the money stopped that you noticed." Shuddering, she took a step closer. "We require assistance." I gave a head shake. "You must assist yourself. Similar to what I've been doing for years." She gave me a blink. "So that's it? Are you finished? As soon as you informed my children that they would not be seated at your table, I was done." That was like a kick to the stomach. She inhaled nervously. You were raised by us. Number expectations were raised by you. Yes, you fed me, I was housed by you, but you made me into an ATM with a heartbeat the moment I was able to breathe on my own. Her voice changed. You're being mean. I chuckled. It's funny. I used to believe that you only called when the rent was due and ignored my birthdays. She parted her lips to retaliate, then shut them. It was visible to me. That little flash of insight. She was unable to deny that glimmer of reality. With composure and finality, I said, I hope you figure things out. But I'm no longer your answer. I pivoted to enter. She took hold of my arm. One final desperate shot. We are your family. I gave her a stern, unflinching stare. Number this residence is occupied by my family. You are merely a former debtor of mine. I withdrew and went back inside. She didn't follow. A couple of days later, Marley entered the kitchen with her phone in her hand. You know what? She said. I arched an eyebrow. The house was put up for sale. I blinked. That quick? I suppose they had no other choice. I remained silent for a while. I just stirred my coffee. How are you feeling? She inquired. Free? I murmured. I meant it too. I occasionally ponder what would have happened if I had simply continued to make payments, if I had remained cheerful over yet another Christmas meal, with my children seated at the foldable table and Bryce receiving the centerpiece, if I had told myself it wasn't so horrible and ignored that gut punch moment. However, I didn't. I got to my feet, and they were the ones left in the cold for the first time in my life.